that you pull in right now in your Akash, and you intuitively are awakening to something that's from the stars. Now, what would that look like? I'll tell you. The astrologers are awakening to quantum astrology. The homeopathists are awakening to esoteric, multidimensional homeopathy, energies beyond what they thought. Some of the most ancient and understood known facilitations are starting to have multidimensional attributes. That is an awakening from the stars. You didn't have it until now, and your Akash is starting to give it to you. This is your best friend. Air is so interesting. Did you know that right now, this particular group, where you are on the planet, is one of the freshest places you can be, with the purest air you could have? The reason? You study in school photosynthesis. You understand the air and carbon dioxide exchange. You understand that Gaia, the trees, are giving you the oxygen that you need for life. You understand that you give them back something they need. But did anyone ever tell you where most of the oxygen on the planet is produced? And if you would say, well, it has to be the forests, you'd be wrong. They're the smallest things that exist, the lichen, all of the moss, the rainforests. They are producing more oxygen than the trees. Therefore, you are in the right place at the right time to go outside while you can and breathe some of the purest oxygen that is being manufactured by your best friend, Gaia. You have another best friend in this metaphor, and it is your Akash. It is giving you the life force that will create something very special on this planet. New information for new health using the energy meridians of the body, and so much more. So much more. Energy of the human body will be the secret for longevity and healing someday, more than anything that you have today. Dear ones, there is so much more than you recognize within yourselves that you've never been taught. I want you to leave this place thinking about this. Surrounding you right now, multicolored universe of energies that have your name on it, that walk with you in that which you call your Merkaba, carried partially by you, your biology, your DNA, and even your soul, all mixed together to be something divine, beyond that which reality which you understand, and is the absolute secret of health and life. This is why, as you discover these things in the future, you won't overpopulate yourselves. You'll have wisdom to know what works and what does not. A whole different way of producing food, electricity, and water. A new paradigm of living for the planet will wipe out all of the fears that you currently have in 3D. You don't know what you don't know. If you can hold this vision and think positively, this positive feeling will carry over even into your next life. And when you're born, your Akash will ring with it, that there's hope, you're here for a reason, and you don't have to suffer. The new generation on this planet is the key to everything that's going to take place. And as time goes on, you will be the new generation. Think of it. And so it is. Of magnetic service. There are so many lessons that human beings could learn that are so beautiful and benevolent and awakening. And they are unique to each of you. Those here in the room, those listening later. They must be learned in a way that is appropriate for each and every life. There is no one grand lesson that everyone has to gather around and learn together. Instead, what happens is groups participate in energies that they start to recognize. And it's not the facts of what you learn, and it's not the list that you might write down. What you sense that puts you together into a cohesive unit is the attributes of love. And you feel safe and you recognize it. And that is the communication between light workers. Not that which you would call a belief system. I would like to say, stop calling it a system. Is love a system? And the answer is no. Is compassion a system? And the answer is no. Then your relationship to the Creator is not a system. It just is. But others will recognize the same energy that you do. Not in a system, but in that compassionate energy that surrounds all of you and makes you a better person because you are compassionate and loving to yourself than to others. It changes all of the attributes of your expectations, but it's got to start at home. It has to start that place that you call you. And you've heard it over and over, forgiveness of self. It's not really forgiveness. It's an awareness of who you are and what you may not have to forgive. It's an awareness, again, of being born magnificent. And no matter who you thought you were, that is who you were as a child. That's what the child thought until they grew up and understood everything about compassion and love. The God that created you is you. I'll say it again. Made in His image is a phrase that so many have used in the past to describe the divinity in a human being. And the image is not the image of a prophet or the image of the face of God. It's the image of compassion. It is love. Made in His image means you are a piece of the Creator. The image of the Creator is inside you. That's magnificent. That's the engine that you start to use to create whatever it is you need right now. Solution to the problem you came with today? The engine is there. Solution to the health issues you have? The engine is there. We told you the last time we met. How are you going to instruct the engine to then drive forward and eliminate these things that you don't necessarily need to have, that are inappropriate to your life at this time, dear light worker? Do you feel that your life is limited? Do you feel that perhaps it's going to be over soon? I will tell you that all of that thinking was placed upon you in an older energy, in a three-dimensional place, and somehow, some way, you have believed it to this minute, not understanding that made in His image means that you have control over the length of time you stay. And that nothing that is going on right now in your life is forever. That it can be moved aside today, tomorrow. You don't know what you don't know. And what you don't know is how powerful you are. The power is for you to change you. You're on the water, dear ones. This is the time. I'm going to give you some things you didn't really think about. There were a few astronauts a couple of decades ago that completely went out of the Earth's field of gravitation, and there were only a few. And these are the ones that flew to the moon. It doesn't matter whether they landed there or not. They were out of touch with anything that would ground them to the planet for a couple of weeks. And they never, ever got grounded. They never went to a port. And the fact that they were completely and totally outside of the Earth's magnetic field was significant. They were ungrounded, totally and completely. Now I want you to study a little bit of what happened to those men. One of them became an artist, another a poet, another spiritually minded to the max. That's all he wanted to talk about. Others didn't talk about what happened to them because they were very private. But they were so private they didn't even want to talk about the trip, because each single one of them had an epiphany that they never expected. These are scientists and pilots and astronauts that were chosen from the finest ones, the logical ones, and they all were affected. For a few days, you get to be ungrounded. And I'll tell you that the energy in this place is ripe for change, discovery, decisions, solutions. I'll say it again. Change, discovery, and solutions. Take advantage of it or not, that is free choice. I speak to the small group here. And those listening in the future, know this, that when you take these journeys, where you're over and on the water for lengths of time, that these create wonderful creative times. And we've said it before, those who want to write books, take a cruise. Those who want to write poetry, take a cruise. Those who want to have solutions in their life that they cannot seem to grasp, take a cruise. It's almost an invitation for you to think differently. Accomplish things you might not have otherwise. And then when you return to the grounding, it all starts to make sense. And you look backwards to only perhaps a week or two before and say, I never thought of that. I feel different now. And it wasn't because it was a vacation, dear ones, any more than the astronauts took a vacation. It was something else. You with you, some of the greatest tools you could have. And so it is. Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I bring you a message tonight that is overdue. It's a message of benevolence and love, of beauty, of hope. As humanity starts to turn a corner, away from an old energy into a new energy, it sounds like a trite colloquialism. The old to the new, but this is profound. For the old energy represents staples of consciousness and the ways of being, which are going to be eliminated with a new more advanced and elegant, evolved consciousness that is coming. And we wish to tell you yet again what to expect. And it centers around one word. There is a time that my partner and his partner will never forget. Not too long ago, in the place that you call India, they had an audience with a man. And the man is known as the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is respected, renowned, loved by hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of human beings who have heard him and seen him, been with him. And he goes over that bridge of what you would call organized religion. For the Christians and the Jews would all sit in his presence. The Muslims would understand when they could see the oneness of God represented in the man. And when he would speak in these groups, there would be a suspension for a little while of any separatism. And the light shone out of him. And there my partner was, about to meet him. He'll never forget it. It's etched into his Akash, which will go through the veil. And he'll remember a time, even in another lifetime, where he met a holy man who was correct and true. The first thing the Dalai Lama did was to grab the hand of my partner and his partner. They were holding hands. It's all my partner could do to suppress weep. Could this really be happening? And in his own cheerful, joyful way, the Dalai Lama mentioned some things, asked some questions. Where are you from? What's going on? And he looked in the eyes of my partner and his partner and made a statement. It's simple, but profound. It's something that he said that anyone who knew him would expect him to say, but my partner got to hear his voice say it to him. And he said, I believe in oneness. Profound it is because this changing consciousness on the planet is changing from separatism to oneness. And it's doing it in subtle ways and not so subtle ways. But you can see it operate so clearly because of what is coming. You can see it operate because separatism is starting to look ugly. And yet that was always the way of it. I want to walk you through predictions, situations, instructions, some of which may surprise you. All given in love and from a source that has seen this before and knows what's coming that is potentially beautiful. Not all at once, dear ones, and we've said this before, but let me plant the seed of what I see. Only a few years past 2012, and already you're experiencing the old staleness of separatism. And it's not feeling good or looking good. Let me tell you where this might go. Because you're going to see the actual coming out from separatism to oneness in the oddest places.
I think the most remarkable one that you're going to see, and when you do it, you remember this channel, is in commercialism, in business. Imagine for a moment, I'm going to give you something that is laughable today and could happen tomorrow. Imagine for a moment two soft drink companies who I'll name, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, coming together in one giant pavilion in a conference and inviting everyone to come in and taste their soft drink and enjoy it, because they know that between the two brands there will be some who want one and some who want the other. But by combining the two into one place, they'll sell more soft drinks. It's not separate anymore, is it? What was the old system? I'll call it competitive war. That's what the old system was, completely and totally separate, completely. And one would say, we have the best, don't do the other. Here's the blindfold test. You're going to like ours better. And the other one will then say the same, and they'll change the brand, and they'll change the taste, and do this and that, all so that they will be ahead of the other one. And suddenly, somewhere, someone is going to have an odd idea, and the boardrooms are going to guffaw and laugh and roll their eyes for a moment. What if we came together knowing very, very succinctly that there is a taste for both on this planet? And that when we come together, we're going to show a oneness that says, we're not going to tell you anything. We have just got some great drinks here. Why don't you come and enjoy them? And for those who have never tasted the one and just tasted the other, there will be some who will make a change and some who won't. And it won't matter. Because in the end, they will have achieved even more than any kind of a commercial war that they would ever have. The end of separatism and the admonishment to others that perhaps the old ways aren't working as well. That some new paradigms coming together would work far, far better. Will you ever see that? And the answer is yes, sooner than you think. The appearance of oneness in any form and the lack of separation is what I'm asking you to look for. Dear ones, those who separate will eventually go into their own corners. Separation creates war. Separation creates mistrust in any form at all. It means there's them and there's you. A oneness brings together 2, 3, 4 sides, it doesn't matter, into a coalition, a way of confluence that creates things you didn't expect. I want to talk to Americans in the room. I want you to go back with me and pretend. I want you to pretend you were there at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I want you to pretend that you could see the faces of the founding fathers who started the democracy you have today. I want you to listen to them when they say this is the start of something different. And they're right. Majority rule, minority rights, a chance for everyone. Dissension is okay. Anyone can be successful. What an idea. But they were smart. And even in the creation of your country's constitution, they understood there would be change. There would be amendments. And they understood there would be dissension and party differences, and they would not stop. There would be no coalition of oneness there. They understood the separation was important. But they built the Constitution so that when the two sides would come together, they would make laws that were better. Better because the two sides had come and compromised and negotiated and built laws that would remain to this day in their wisdom and strength, because the two sides have put them together. That was then, and that's not happening today. Today it has become separatism. And the idea of oneness is not there, dear ones. It is simply gone. And the founding fathers, if they could see what's happening right now, right today, would weep. And they would say, it's not the way we designed it. It just isn't the way we designed it. We didn't design it to have elections where winner would take all and battle the opposition until the next election, and winner would take all and battle the opposition, and nothing would get accomplished. That's today. Ultimate separatism. Once again, I tell you that what seems to be broken can be repaired by oneness. There will come leadership that understands this. There will be those who would run for the highest office of the land, who will obfuscate what they actually believe on purpose and tell people, I'm a centrist. I believe a lot of the red that is good and the blue that is good, and I'm going to put them together. You elect me for negotiation, not for the party, and not for the color, and not for anything except the ability to come and put this together so that the laws are done and they're strong because of it. And dear ones, when that happens, I want you to remember this channel. Someone is coming. This will be obvious to so many. It is what is needed in order to return to the basic idea that two sides, even three or four, can come together and negotiate for strength, for common sense, without name-calling and without battles. A oneness even with cultural differences. The idea of separate is going to go by the wayside. And when it does, you'll breathe a sigh of relief. And you'll say, no more of this. Soon, it'll occur to those who will run for the highest office in the land. It'll occur to them so plainly that they must be one who can negotiate, bring together, and never separate again. That's just two areas. There are so many more. But the one I want to talk about, I'll talk about in a way I've never talked about before. On this planet, there are many cultures, and those cultures bring about differences when it comes to spiritual things. Do I have to tell you that even a planet that believes in one God, the beautiful love of one God, is responsible for more wars than anything else? Arguing over one God. That is separatism. And the separatism has been there for a long time. The separate that says, my prophet has the truth, yours does not. And this is the staple of the consciousness of the organizations to this day. All of them to this day. For the exception of two. The oldest ones on the planet, who actually are the ones without a prophet. Interesting, isn't it? But I don't want to talk about those. I want to tell you this, that the end of separatism will happen there as well. And you're going to start seeing it. You're going to start seeing it in gentle ways. where the prophet's words and actions and love supersede doctrine. I want to do something I've never done before, and then I want to give you an example, a vision. I want to talk to Christians. Now, I would like to tell you that I'm very aware that most Christians will not be interested in listening. In fact, they will not be listening at all. Because most Christians that are invested in the beautiful Savior that they have are told that only those who believe as they believe are to be listened to. And therefore, these words will not be heard. Not now, but they will be heard. Because there are many who will be alone. And you know who you are, Christian, listening to this right now. Because what I'm going to give you will enhance everything you believe and more. I want to tell you about the man that you worship. It's bigger than you think. It's bigger than you were told, even. This man who walked the earth, who had so much happening. I'm going to give you stories tonight that you don't even know that are not in Scripture. That'll make you weep with joy. This man knew God. Not much was told in your Scripture about his background. It seemed like he simply appeared and did his thing. Oh, he studied. In order to get to that place where he was who you worship, there were years where he went through the opposition to what he believed. Remember, he was a Jew. And what he started preaching and what he started looking at, even as a young man, even in training, went so against the grain of everything that was there. They even called him the wicked priest. Wicked because he was against the truth of the land, what the Hebrews knew. But by the time he was Jesus, as you know him, that's what I want to talk about. Here is a man who was ascended in his consciousness, in his DNA, so much higher above anyone else who had ever walked the planet at that moment. The man who could walk on water was the man who could walk on water, because he had control over physics. He had control over health, over so many things. There are miracles you never knew he could do. Let me ask you. You were told that he had the multitudes that would listen to him, and you could hear a pin drop. How could the multitudes hear one man on a rock? How could 1,000 people without amplification hear one man on a rock? I'll tell you, they all did, as though he was in their face, talking in their ear with the most gentle, loving voice you can ever imagine. That was Jesus. Did you ever think of that miracle? And then if he talked too long, he fed them with food that wasn't there. That's the Jesus. Did you ever talk about what happened when he went home? No. You just got to hear about the feasts and the meetings and all that. Do you think they let him alone? They slept around where he lived. They followed him everywhere he went, because what he had exuded love and compassion and oneness. Exuded it. All you wanted to do was follow him. You could feel it. That's the energy I talked about this morning. That's the energy that has no name yet, that says, I don't know what it is, I want it. And I'll follow you for it. Because it's the love of God. All right, Christian, I want you to listen to this. Did you hear about the Roman centurion? No. Well, I'll tell you, there are so many things you don't know about that enhance this man's beauty, even above that which you read in your scripture from the apostles. The Romans watched Jesus carefully to see if he would say anything that would be against the emperor or Caesar or the politics. And he didn't. Because then they could put him in jail instantly, and he didn't. He talked about love. He said, listen, this is the way of it. It's through me that you're hearing this. Listen, this is the way of it. This is the truth of it. And he talked about the beauty of compassion of God, not about politics. And the centurion listened. But one time, just the one time, that Jesus turned and looked him in the eye, knew he was there. And there was a silence, and the centurion looked at him in the eye, and it was all over. One glance from the master, one smile from the master, and it melted the centurion's heart. Melted it. He left his post, he went home, took off his helmet and his armor, and he took his family and he left. He knew he had to get out of town because that was abandoning his post, but he knew he was wrong in what he had done. He had met Jesus. He had met the Master with one glance. That's who that was. You got a good guy here if you decided to worship, Christian. Let me tell you another thing about Jesus. He looked over the multitudes, and in his wisdom, he knew who the liars were. He knew who the thieves were. He saw the prostitutes and even those who'd killed other people. And he never said a word. Because he was not separatist. He was oneness. The love of God sees them all equally, and he said so. Dear Christian, you have a personal relationship where he can walk with you and talk to you and tell you that you're family. The man was about oneness. There was no judgment. Never. Beautiful. Even above what you think. Can you imagine being there? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give every Christian listening instructions. This nation predominantly is Christian that I speak in right now, so that's who I'm talking to. And if you will take it from me, I'm going to give you some instructions. You're told by your leadership you should be evangelistic. Good. I'll give you instructions on how it works. I want you to emulate the man you worship. If he could look you in the eye right now and you could be there in any of the assemblies and he could see you right now, he would look at you and say, go and emulate what you see. Go and emulate what you see. If you want followers, I want you to emulate that which is the Christ. When you look upon those around you, I want you to see the oneness that he saw. There weren't categories of those who believed and disbelieved or were doing it right or wrong. There was only love. There was only the compassion that God can give to a man like that who knew God. If you want followers, you will have the compassion of Christ everywhere you walk. And eventually, because of this and the oneness that you will give, the people will come to you and say, I don't know what you got, but I love it. And that's when you can say, look, why don't you come and have a worship service with me. This is the way you do it. If you want to be fishers of men, this is how you fish. You do it with compassion. You do it with love. And may I tell you this, you don't do it with separatism. You don't do it by pointing at the others and saying, you got it wrong. Not only that, you're going to die in hell if you don't do it right. You don't make lists that are fearful and push people away. I'll tell you, Christian, that builds a wall. And that's not what your guy did. He never built a wall. Ever. Right to his last breath. Never built a wall. Looked upon his executioners just like he would look upon his mother. Compassion, love, and that's what's attractive. Now, did that hurt so much? Doesn't it make sense that you would emulate the Christ and that is where it's at? I've got a vision to give you, and the vision will be the end of the channel. It's a metaphor. It's about pillars that are holding up an enormous amount of weight, a roof, a ceiling. There's 5 or 6, maybe 7 of them. And they have to agree and be in oneness because each one shares the load. And I'm going to identify what that load is on top that they're supporting in a minute. None of those pillars can be separatists because they cannot remove themselves from this paradigm, this image, because then the whole structure would fall. You have a pillar which is the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Jews, the Muslims, the Christians. Cultures of this planet will always have differences. They'll always have their prophets. That's not going away. But what's different is this, is that there'll come a time when all of the pillars agree about the oneness. They'll not make the other pillar separate. They will include all of them in compassion. They'll keep their prophet. They'll believe what they believe, and they will be happy they believe it, but they'll not turn to the other one and say, you're wrong. They'll not turn to the other one and say, and because you're wrong, we must kill you. That is separatism. That is going away. What is that weight they're holding? I'll give it a name. Because this is the key. The weight they're holding, all of the pillars in oneness together, called peace on earth. It is needed. This is the key. Lack of separatism, especially when it comes to organized religion. Turn to your prophets and the source and relearn what it is you're doing, dear ones. Instead of turning to the rules made by men so long ago to keep you separate. Instead, think of the oneness of the Master and the fact that he never separated out a group. And then think of what you're doing today. There is so much love for all of you to go around. And just like the Pepsi and just like the Coca-Cola, there will be those attracted to your pillar and to the other pillar. And the billions of people on this earth will live in a peaceful coalition of understanding and oneness, disagreeing perhaps of who might have the best, but including it all. Separateness is starting to fail. You will see it. I mean to offend no one today. I come to you in love and benevolence in an angelic way to say things are getting better. Listen. Just listen. You might learn something. And so it is.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. And there would be those here, some of whom would question if this could be. Is it possible that a human being can sit and instantly cross to the other side of the veil and bring forward not only the language, the information, but so much more? That a portal could be opened that was dynamic, would allow free choice. And that some in a group like this would feel it instantly and know what it was. And know they would be safe. And could feel the love of God around them. And could feel family. And others would sit next to them and say, it's a fake. And that, dear human being, is the beauty of this. That Spirit does not poke at you in ways that are inappropriate, but instead sits before you in love and says, take a look. How does it feel? How does it feel? How does it feel? And these are the times where there are dispensations of energy that lay upon a group that has come with pure intent, where healings occur. And they're not just healings of the cellular structure of the body. So often, old soul, they begin to talk to you in ways that you came to hear. And I know what you've come to hear. This is the shift. And in the shift, there is a role that is being played by the light worker, by the old soul, in the room, right here. A role that is now finally upon you. It is harder than it was, and you know what I mean. And so there are those who would say, am I worthy? What do I do next? Where do I go from here? What can I do? Why do I feel like I feel, and why am I depressed? What is it about light workers and self-worth anyway? You have this beautiful light, and it shines so gloriously. It says, look here, I've got something. And then you go inside, and the mind says, but I'm not really sure I have it. I'm looking at your light, and you got it. Oh, you got it. Why don't you let these days be the time that corrects that oxymoron? And so you can walk out of this building, drive down this high desert differently than you came up, and say, I'm starting to feel my purpose. And you start to get chills and say, I am worthy to be here. I am worthy. This is so unusual. And the channel even of yesterday of Gaia, talking about the various energies of the planets and the stars, and they look at you curiously. How can you have so much light? And you haven't really discovered who you are. Curious human beings. The great shift has got to erase the curiosity. The great shift is going to take the old soul and the light worker and build a foundation around their light if you so choose. You will never, ever ask, do I have a light again? You'll know it. And it's time. We started a dialogue next to the canyon 2 days ago. You exit the building and you see the rocks and the majesty and the trees. And you're awed. And you love it. You feel the portal that is here. You spin a little bit in the vortices that perhaps will change the energy from one side of the rock to another. You're in the right place. And you look at them curiously. And you admire what is there. And you feel what is there. Some of you will even touch a tree. I want to hear its voice. Hold a rock. Put your hand against the granite. But then when you release your hand and you walk away and say, that was beautiful, I'd like to come back and experience that. Never understanding that Gaia is looking at you the same way. And if I could put words in the mouth of the trees and the rocks, they would be this. Look, she touched me. He touched me. The piece of divinity from the stars touched me. And that's how we feel. There's so much in you. It would be a good time for the healing to start. I want this 2 days with you to create a shell in this building where you can come in total safety and absorb the things you need to hear. Not a generic linear sponge that simply is going to take it all in and have to sort it out later, but one who sits and says, Dear Spirit, I want the things I need delivered to me. And the things that may be profound that I don't need, we'll put them on the shelf for later. But I don't want to go through this linear three-dimensional process of taking all the notes and listening to all of the speakers and trying to all sort it out later, remember what they said. So why don't we make a pact, an agreement with yourselves, your consciousness, and your heart. Dear Spirit, let the things touch me in these days that I came for. And the healing that I came for. And the attitude adjustment that I came for. And the power that I came for. Because it's time. It was 3 years ago I told my partner, put together a meeting that they'll never forget. That they'll never forget. And my partner said, what is it to make it so memorable? What can we do to make it memorable? And I said to my partner, you put this together and they will come. And what will make it memorable is that they're going to leave so different than they came, that they will look back at their rebirthing this weekend, of a shift this weekend, of things that they didn't even expect this weekend. And they will never forget it because of what happened in their heart and in their cellular structure. There are those here who may not believe that this is even real, that the channeling experience, they don't see the colors that so many of you do on the stage. They may not even feel the energy that you are feeling now. And so they sit and they wonder when it's going to be over. And so I want to speak to them. You are loved as much as any human being in this room, dear one, and you may not believe this is taking place, but the same number of beautiful, loving, angelic beings will walk out with you as walk out with the healer and the channeler this day. And they will walk next to you all your life till there's a time when you may remember this energy and say yes. Or you may need us at a time when you are at your lowest ebb, and we'll be there. And it's not because you joined something or you made an agreement. It's because you're already on the planet. The agreement was made at your birth. That you would come, that light would be presented, and you would have free choice to do whatever you want with it, including reject it and walk away. It is appropriate. You are dearly loved for it. There is no judgment from this chair. Do you understand that? Feel safe in this place. And if you dare, you might even open up your emotion a little bit. See the light in those around you and realize they're not a cult. They're not out to trap you. They don't want you to join anything. They would just love to let you know that they are compassionate and they have light. And there may be something you haven't considered yet about yourself. Could it be clearer? And that is the message, and always has been and always will be. From this chair, as long as my partner can take a breath, I'll be back. And so it is.
Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. From the great central sun, bring in the golden light of oneness. Allow it to flow down your point of essence, above and down through you. Allow it to reside behind the breastbone a few inches and create a beautiful bowl of oneness, love, and light. Feel that. See it, sense it, know it is there. And now as you breathe and as you feel that love and feel your heart open, send out that golden light from your heart, from your hand chakras, and send it out to your loved ones, to your family, to your friends, to your neighbors, and send it out to the planet. See the planet sparkling in golden pure love. All sadness is gone. There is love. All fear is gone. All anxiety is gone. There is only love. There is only oneness. Love yourself and let the cup runneth over. Fill the earth. Fill the earth. Allow compassion to flood from your heart into the earth, into the beings in the earth, around the earth, above the earth, on the earth. Gaia. Let her feel your love.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. And so what does all of this mean? A day filled with information, of energy, celebration, questioning, invitations to solve the puzzles of your own life, literal invitations to solve a time that has been prophesied as poignant, where the human beings will come to a place where they can do something they've never done before. A point of decision that they may have experienced before but never were able to cross, perhaps. Could it be that your history is grander than you think? We're not going to make this a marathon event, this channeling. We'd like to give you some basic information we've not given you before. We would like to tell you of some of the things that are in the works that you're creating. It's a time of celebration. My very arrival 22 years ago was proof. If you knew the ethers, if you were aware intuitively and spiritually of the potentials of the planet after the harmonic convergence, my arrival was only 2 years after that. And if you'd figured it out, you would have said the arrival of the messenger means that something is different, for the messenger had never arrived before. The precession of the equinoxes is upon you. And in the 36-year window, I arrived at the beginning. And some are now starting to figure this out. Could there be a plan? Could there be a timing known only unto God? And the answer is no. The timing is known by all. Oh, dear one, if I could only tell you in a way that you would believe the things that are hidden from you that may even sound like nonsense. The decisions you made before you came in this time. I didn't show up 40 years ago, I showed up 20. And so many of you arrived on this planet. You arrived with the potential of disaster and doom and pain and death. Another decision point lost, and perhaps the last one available. Many of you were born with a time where the potentials were dark and the prophecies were even darker, where Armageddon was before you and it looked like you were going right into that path. And we have said this again, and you came anyway, old soul. And we look at you and say, human being, if you believe in these things, why did you do that? Oh, this would have been a good one to sit out. Honestly, and we were there with you and you were there. Oh, with the mind of God, whatever you want to call it, with the mind of a universal intelligence, you came in anyway. And the reason we have said, because you knew if you didn't, nothing would happen that would save anything. That there would be no light on the planet. There would be no turning anything around. And here you sit, almost at the middle. And the teacher, Greg, brings it to you so clearly. What are you going to do about it? Well, I have a message that many of you know already. You wouldn't be here unless you'd made up your mind to do something about it. You wouldn't be in the chair unless that was the plan. And you are now formulating that which would just say, what is it that I personally, your name goes here, what am I going to do? And we have said these things before to you. If there are 700 of you here, there are 700 paths, 700 truths, 700 learning events, you might say. And each and every one is deciding something for themselves. Their Akash is different. You are a marvelous puzzle that is quantum, filled with the potential of the ages at a time that it needs it, and it needs it, and it needs it. If I could take you back where you could really scope out the timeline. Oh, it started to be presented right on the screen behind me. But the screen wasn't big enough. Oh, there's a timeline. And I've not spoken of this, not like this. And this is unbelievable, and there would be those who would shake their heads, but this is spiritual logic, and some of you will know this is true. Oh, dear ones, you are the new one on the block. Human being, you are so new. This galaxy has been around for almost 17 revs. And now I'm going to explain that. For nothing galactic is measured in Earth years. You understand that, don't you? It's measured in revolutions. And if you meet those from the other parts of the galaxy, and you will, they will explain time differently. They would have their own years, and you would have your own years. So it must be boiled down to a common denominator that the galaxy understands, for all of the stars go the same speed. And since they do, the amount of time that your solar system takes to go around one time is the same as everyone's. You're entangled from the center. And that time is called 1 rev. And it is 240 million Earth years. 1 revolution around the galaxy. And that is how it is measured. The ones who seeded you have a civilization you won't believe how old it is. Nothing was here, hardly, on this planet when they were going through what you are now going through. They were the only planet of free choice in the galaxy. You see, there is a system. In the Seven Sisters, the Pleiadians were going through this. Their civilization, not their life, but the civilization, as measured from the enlightened decision point, is 0.004 revs old. And in Earth years, if you want to compute it, that's 1,000,000. And how long is it exactly that you've been here? How long exactly have you had science? 200,000 years, perhaps, you would give from the seeding to the start of one kind of human. 100,000 years, perhaps, to revolve through the 5 cycles of humanity. Perhaps there's not enough zeros to give you that would show you how new you are. The Pleiadians had a 1,000,000-year-old civilization that took it to a place where it gave permission to evolve its DNA through conscious decision coming from the heart. And they're just like you. And the things that are told you this day scientifically are spot on. That's how it worked. But what you're doing now, they did. And their DNA started to evolve. And so is yours. And so we take a moment, not only then to reveal that timeline of those who seeded you and give you an idea how long this might take, but to tell you this: you stand on the precipice of passing a marker of distinction where the galaxy knows who you are. You have 18 years left to plant the seeds of what you're going to do next. 18 years. Not December 21. 18 more years of the 36-year cycle. And in these 18 years, let me give you the potentials that we see. 2,000 years ago, what were the potentials? 1,000. What were the potentials? 100. They're different. Every single time Spirit looks at humanity. The potentials of today are stronger than ever. It is why you sit in the room. No one in the chair says, all is lost, therefore I'll come to a Kryon meeting. There is hope, is there not? What is it you're here for? Let me give you the potentials. 20 years ago, I gave you the potentials when I arrived. I said, you have evolved a place in that which you call human nature, where you can drop your karma, become a light worker, start a process that is going to pay off. We told you that the potentials were grand, that the learning would be even grander if you would hold the course. And you did. And you knew something was up. And I've said it so many times before, when the geopolitical systems fell over and the threats were no longer the threats, and the prophecies of old didn't make any sense because the players didn't make any sense, and all of the validations, what used to be, started falling on the floor. But what are you going to replace them with? I want to tell you the potentials of evolved DNA. And this is what your seed biology went through. The sisters went through this. And you are going through this. Your DNA is about to evolve. Now there are those already thinking in 3D, and they're saying we can hardly wait to measure that. The skeptics waiting for Kryon saying DNA is evolving, and they're racing to their microscopes. They're not going to see anything. They may see a few anomalies, but they're not going to see what they expect. For they'll say, well, an evolved DNA is going to have to change chemistry. We're going to have to see things differently. We know what the human genome looks like, therefore we'll know when it changes. No, you won't. Because the kinds of things that are going to evolve in DNA are not measurable with chemistry. But you're going to see them, and you're going to know them. There's a celebration going on right now. Those who would stand aside, who have the faces of the sisters who are still here, want to enter this building. They want to surround you, and they want to listen, because this is their history too. And they want to make it profound as I give this to you, dear ones. There's part of the DNA that you don't even think is DNA. What does an IQ test measure? If DNA evolves, you expect to get smarter. There are those standing by to measure how much smarter you'll be, and they'll be disappointed, because the IQ test is going to continue measuring pretty much the same. Because there's nothing on an IQ test that measures common sense, or compassion, or knowing what to do next, or looking in the eyes of another person and seeing God. And that is what is going to change. The thing you're going to start seeing, and you're already beginning to see it, is what your Pleiadian sisterhood is celebrating and laughing about right now. And you never figured it out. You accept things the way they are. Humans take 20 years or more to grow up because they're complex. Therefore, they come into the world helpless. Helpless. Mother starts to teach them everything they need to know. Language goes and comes, how to walk, what's dangerous and what isn't. How many years does that take? Look at some of the other mammals, dear ones, who are not strapped with consciousness that doesn't work. The buffalo in the field drops its calf, and within an hour it's walking. Not only that, it knows where the water is. How did that happen? Not only that, it knows what berries not to eat, what's poison. Not only that, it knows where its enemies are, that calf. How long did that take? And those in the audience will say, well, this is too simplistic, Kryon. Oh, really? What, their brains aren't complicated enough? What's the difference? It ought to give you pause for thought. This DNA of yours has never contained that which you are now developing, and I'll call it the common sense factor, which has always been available, that wants to then put things together instead of tearing them apart, which will come into this world with concepts already in place that will never allow another war. Is it common sense that you'd send your kids to the battlefield? You do it well. What does that tell you? You don't know who your enemies are. You don't know what's poison and what's not poison. You barely know how to walk. Well, that's going to change. Some will call it instinct. Others will have other names for it. The children of today are coming in more conceptual than you did. You're seeing it. They're not fitting into the society exactly in the boxes that you'd like. Perhaps not even in your family. They're thinking differently. This is the beginning of an evolved DNA that the human race is poised to receive, should it choose to go through this with a compassionate mind. 18 years. It starts here. The invitation this morning that I gave, could it be clearer? Glean the things that you need from these days and this weekend and beyond, and take them to yourself so that you would leave differently. Don't wait and study them later. There is no time. You must apply them now, because the family is here. The family allows for an energy that is unique on the planet. When old souls get together, it is so unique. I want to tell you, how many of you have ever seen a lighthouse convention? They stand on the rocks alone, don't they? Well, this is a lighthouse convention, and you're sharing your light with each other so you can go stand on the rocks alone with more light than you've ever had, entangled with those you meet this weekend. Sharing a compassion, a love perhaps you didn't expect, that may change your life, how you think about others, what you do next. And even if you leave this place and say, I have no idea what to do with any of this, I will ask you this: go out peaceful with it. I don't have a goal, many say. Go out peaceful with it. Because these things will be presented synchronistically to you as you go through life, trusting in one thing: you are a piece of God. You belong here. You have seeds from the stars, from other divinity. You are different from anything else on the planet. And you should know you're never alone. Ever alone. Never alone. The sisters are applauding, for they know I'm right. And that's how it started for them. 1,000,000 years. That's the message. The future of mankind as we see it, the potentials are there. It starts here. The ball is rolling. Congratulations. Now go from this place differently than you came. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. These times together are so precious for us. They are different, very different, from coming in the past to a group of people and giving a message that might not be connected to anything that is germane to what follows. Out of context, you might say, all titled differently. We try to make these messages to flow into that which is the Circle of 12 meditation. If you're here in this time watching this, then we know why. That you have an interest, an intent to hear profound messages, hopefully you understand, about yourself. Not necessarily about larger pictures of the earth or what's happening, but about something even more magnificent, and that would be you. Because you hold the key, dear ones, to the changes around you that often you believe are shaping you, and they're not. No. Your consciousness on this planet as a group of old souls all over the planet are what is shaping what is taking place. You are more in control than you think. I would like to open a door in this channel to a philosophy or a rule or an axiom that you might not have thought of, but that you know must exist. And I'm going to start by saying this. What kind of an artist are you? And you would say either, well, I really enjoy painting and I'm a pretty good one, or you might say, well, I've dabbled in it, not much, or you might say, nothing. I'm not paint, I can't paint, I never will, that's not my talent. So you know I must be talking about a metaphor, and indeed I am. The first premise is this, and you have heard this before, even from the healers on this show. Here is the premise. Everything has vibration. Now that vibration is different from what you might have studied in the dimension you live in, which would be sound or color. A vibration that you could measure, something that vibrates, that goes back and forth. I want you to think bigger than that, because even in a multidimensional setting, all dimensions feature that which vibrates. All reality that you have, that you see, all of it has something that vibrates. I once said a controversial thing: the rocks are alive. The rocks vibrate with I would say not a life force, but a force that tells you whether they're alive or not. Even the rocks, they vibrate. In physics, if you know about atomic structure, you know a rock vibrates. You know the density. You know all of these things. There's vibration in everything. Let's look at you in 4 dimensions and music. I go here because this is so obvious to all of you listening. You have some favorite songs, perhaps. Perhaps they're not even songs. Perhaps they're just music of some kind that doesn't necessarily sing a lyric or go to a verse or a chorus, but it's just music that you just enjoy listening to. And it might be complete. It might have lyrics, but something uplifts you. Every single one of you. And you're so different. The difference in the music would reflect the difference in that which your experience is, or perhaps your age, but all of you have something you want to listen to because it makes you feel good. So tell me, why does it make you feel good? And that is something I wish to speak of. The why is a system. There is an interface between things that vibrate and your consciousness. There is an interface between those things that vibrate. Remember what I told you vibrates? Everything. And you and your consciousness. This means, by the way, your consciousness has a vibration. And when these overlap, you feel it. You have things that make you feel uplifted and good, and you go to them over and over because they do make you feel a certain way. The opposite can be true, especially with music. And those who would score films would know it. They have music and they'll say, well, I need something now that tells you something is coming, something is sinister, something is dark or whatever. And there'll be music that will target that. And your consciousness and your subconscious will hear that in a film and go, oh, and the idea of it will then match what happens in the story. That's vibration. It's profound. Let's talk about vibration in a movie or a story or a book. The vibration of the adventure. Do you know that stories and their outcomes have vibration? What are the most uplifting stories that you can think of on this planet? Many times they are in the periodicals you read or the poetry that you love, the books, the movies. And they're uplifting stories, and you want to read them again and again. Oh, you'll say, I love this part. Look what happens here. Sometimes they're romantic, and they'll touch your heart. A story carries vibration. There are those famous writers who have decided that their stories are dark, and they carry a certain kind of vibration, which is the human story, perhaps. Perhaps it's a tragedy and they do these things over and over and write tragedies only. But you have to admit, there is a vibration there. Some of you will see a film or hear some music or perhaps read a story that affects you so that you can't forget it. It's not necessarily uplifting, but you can't forget it because it's the story of another human, perhaps who went through something and you relate to it. The story has an interface to your consciousness, and it sticks. It sticks there, and you remember it, and you remember it. If someone has told you something specifically horrific about something that happened to them or their friends, it sticks with you, doesn't it? That interface is part of what I am going to speak of. What kind of a painter are you? And the reason I'm saying this is because I would like to tell you your story, your emotions, all that you believe and do in your life is a vibration. It's like a canvas and a brush, but instead of the colors or perhaps the tunes you might paint on the palette, you paint a attitude, a belief. We have told you before, even in these programs, the vibration of joy, the vibration specifically of laughter, the healing attributes of both of those things well known. How can you hear someone laugh and suddenly you change? That's the interface. The laughter, the story of the laughter, it has a vibration. And that vibration then goes up against, if you want to say, or interfaces or intermingles with your consciousness. That's the system. Whatever the vibration is presented to you as a human being in a multidimensional state of awareness and consciousness, and it affects you. Sometimes it affects you, again, in an uplifting way, and sometimes it doesn't. The storyteller understands that. The artist who paints a picture and uses light in a certain way makes it so that you can go to a gallery and watch the painting, and you look into it and you understand what that artist is trying to say and do. And many times you weep with joy because you finally see what the artist is trying to tell you in the vibration that is uplifting, and it goes into your consciousness. Ask anyone who appreciates art. In a gallery, looking and looking. Look what that light does. Look at how it is dark over here, but it shows the light so clearly here. It means something. What kind of an artist are you? The palette that you paint on is a vibrational attitude of how you live. Also, how you approach programs of life that are always there. When you get up and you go to sleep, and you perhaps go to work, or you simply are taking care of things, or at a time like this you call COVID and things are different, you have the ability to paint a picture to everyone around you. What kind of an artist are you? Have you painted your despair to everyone so they could see it, broad brush? Have you then dipped into the darkness and painted as fast as you can so everyone can see how disappointed you are, or how fearful, or how ugly you think the situation is? What colors are you using? So you or your children, or perhaps you're older and don't have the children, perhaps a partner, and if you don't have a partner, you have friends, or those even at the store. What are you painting to them? Can they see your smile? During a time when many are wearing masks, can you show them you're smiling anyway? What colors are you using to portray? You have a palette. And old soul, this is the one we speak of. Is it uplifting, healing, joy? Do you laugh a lot? Do you show others you're not afraid, that you have something inside that's worth knowing about? Because of this, dear ones, I'll tell you, those around you and your children and your friends and your legacy will see a picture of you long after you're gone. What do you think they'll see? What kind of an artist are you? These are the things we speak of in these days. They go beyond that which perhaps you have thought of in the past, but they're all the same. They all speak of the magnificence of the human being. And so it is.